Today on Jonathan Bird's Blue World, Jonathan meets a group of veterans learning to scuba dive as rehabilitation for their injuries. Then he learns how to count fish for science. But first, a rare and endangered seal in Hawaii. All of this today on Jonathan Bird's Blue World. Meet Jonathan Bird, one of the world's top underwater nature cinematographers. Traveling the world on assignment for all the major networks, he is an Emmy Award-winning authority on the underwater world. In freshwater or salt, reefs, wrecks, or caves, Jonathan documents the world beneath the waves. Welcome to the Blue World.
Seals and sea lions are among the ocean's most endearing creatures. Their antics and appearance often remind me of undersea puppy dogs, and sometimes these playful animals interact with divers. Most seals and sea lions live in the cool water of temperate seas or the frigid water of the polar regions. The so-called monk seals are the only seals that live in the tropics. And I've come all the way to a remote part of Hawaii to meet this incredibly rare animal, the Hawaiian monk seal.
The Hawaiian monk seal is critically endangered. There are less than 1,200 animals left.
The rugged coast of the Hawaiian Islands might seem like a perfect place for seals, but these famously shy animals are rarely seen in the main Hawaiian Islands. On the island of Kauai, I'm up before sunrise for an adventure that will take me out to sea all day. I'm joining Fathom 5 divers to make a long trip over to a remote island where just a few monk seals are known to live. We leave the dock for a 2-hour crossing to Ni'ihau, the Forbidden Island. It's a beautiful morning in Hawaii, but this trip is rarely flat calm. Two hours later, we approach Ni'ihau and a smaller island next to it called Lehua Rock. The remains of an ancient volcano, Lehua Rock is an uninhabited island. It's a protected bird sanctuary and home to a small group of Hawaiian monk seals that are known to be curious about divers. As we approach and anchor the boat, I'm on the lookout for any seals. We've come to a spot where they're frequently seen, but there are no guarantees in nature. But I don't have to wait long. A curious monk seal comes right over to give us a look. But the real question is, will he allow me to film him underwater? I gear up for what could be the greatest dive of my life, or the most boring, depending on what happens. I drop into the water, grab my camera, and sink towards the bottom, where I look around for a monk seal. The volcanic rock has been deposited in layers, producing a beautiful vertical drop-off made even more spectacular by the excellent visibility. I can hear a strange sound in the distance, but I can't tell where it's coming from. Soon I find the source of the sound, a male monk seal floating in mid-water, vocalizing. The most important part of filming any marine mammal is never to swim to it, but let it come to you. There's no way I can outswim a seal, nor am I likely to sneak up on it. So, my best chance at getting close to this animal is to wait and see if it gets curious about me. So far, however, he seems much more interested in vocalizing. Nobody is quite sure what the vocalizing is about, but it seems to be unrelated to my presence. It has been suggested that this is a form of mating call from the male to any nearby females. One of the problems for the recovery of this species is the fact that there are far more males than females. Finding a female in the vastness of the ocean is not easy. I try to act like I'm doing something else in the hope that the seal will grow curious. But finally I have to leave the water because I'm getting low on air.
Well, that was really interesting. We had one seal that was coming around us, not too close, but taking a look at the camera, and then going off into the blue and vocalizing, making that sort of growling sound.
And that vocalization hopefully will lead to this, finding a mate. In their leisure time, monk seals like to play in the surf together. It looks like fighting, but usually nobody gets hurt. This couple is on their way to mating. The remote coasts of Kauai, Niihau, and Molokai conceal isolated beaches devoid of human encroachment. These are the places that monk seals seek out to give birth to their pups. Human encroachment is one of the main threats facing the recovery of the Hawaiian monk seal population. And tiger sharks are a big threat to the pups just learning to swim. A mother monk seal usually gives birth to only one pup, which is totally dependent on her care for about a month and a half. During that time, she gives her pup milk and swimming lessons. Unfortunately, only 20% of newborn pups make it to their second birthday. This high mortality is the reason that the Hawaiian monk seal is having such a hard time making a comeback from hundreds of years of hunting. Of course, now the Hawaiian monk seal is on the endangered species list and protected from hunting throughout its entire range. The Caribbean monk seal was not so lucky. It was hunted into extinction. The last living animal was seen in 1952. Hopefully, the efforts to protect and rehabilitate the Hawaiian monk seal population are not too late. Back at the boat, while everyone else has lunch, I decide to do a little snorkeling and check out the reef in the shallows. While floating there looking at the fish, guess who has snuck up on me? A monk seal's natural curiosity has brought him over for a look at the awkward floating human. He seems like he's just taking a rest at the surface. Maybe all that vocalizing gets tiring. He looks right into my camera lens. Clearly he's curious about me or my camera. I float in the water for half an hour as the seal repeatedly pops his nose above the surface for a breath of air. Finally, with one last breath, he dives about 50 feet down and starts to vocalize again. Soon it's time for another scuba dive, so cameraman Todd and I head to the boat and gear up. We hit the water and swim down to the reef. Almost immediately, the seal comes over to greet us, swimming right past Todd. He swims right down to me and floats gently above the bottom. He can see me clearly because the eyes of a seal are designed to work underwater. Seals have blurry vision on land, but crystal clear vision down here. Soon the seal starts rubbing his back on the rocks. Even a seal likes a back scratch. He doesn't mind my presence at all. Or maybe he just thinks the lens on my camera produces a nice reflection of himself. His big whiskers do more than make him look cute. They help him hunt fish. They're sensitive to vibrations in the water and detect movement at close range in the dark. As I continue to observe, the seal goes back to vocalizing right in front of me. He brings the air up from his lungs into his throat, then exhales the bubbles afterwards. I have no idea how he made that sound. Seals are mammals and breathe air, so after a few minutes he needs to head to the surface for a breath. While swimming back to the boat, I notice a sandbar shark swimming through the area. I wonder if it will frighten the seal away. However, much to my surprise, the seal in fact swims over to check out the shark. Then he goes back to vocalizing. It's the shark that swims away.
Wow, that is a first. A shark and a seal on the same dive in the same shot. How cool is that?
I'll never forget my adventures with my new friend, the Hawaiian Monk Seal. I certainly hope that all that vocalizing pays off and he finds himself a girlfriend. The future of the Hawaiian Monk Seal depends on it.
Next on Jonathan Bird's Blue World, Jonathan learns how to take a census of marine life. But first, an incredible group of wounded warriors learning to scuba dive.
Most people learn to scuba dive as a recreational activity, combining a love of the water with the desire to explore beneath the waves. But sometimes scuba diving can be therapeutic. Today, I'm meeting a remarkable group of people who learn to dive as a way to heal after serious injury. These men and women are part of a wounded warrior program that helps injured members of the military learn to dive as therapy.
I was in Afghanistan conducting operations out there and stepped in a doorway to clear a room, and there was a pressure plate inside the doorway, and stepped on it obviously with my left foot, and it took my leg there.
I received a gunshot wound to my right leg in 2009, shattered about 5 inches of my femur.
Tasha lost some of her fingers in a training accident.
So I pulled my hands out. I was like, I told you I didn't want to go on this deployment, and just started making all these jokes. And everybody was like, are you crazy? Your hands are mangled, and you're still joking. I was like, got to.
Oh, I was in a four-wheeler accident, and I broke my neck, and I was paralyzed from the neck down. The doctors told me that I would never walk again, but obviously they were wrong. I had, some good surgeons and some great support from my friends and family, and here I am, running with the best of them. And I will say that scuba diving is the first time that I haven't felt the limitations of my injury since the accident.
Stuart Snyder is the course director of the Handicapped Scuba Association International. Stu and his team are the ones who taught these wounded warriors to dive.
When the Wounded Warriors project came along, there's a water sports festival in New York City. We went up there for the first time with the Be a Diver pool, and we had 35 wounded soldiers get in and try scuba diving. The funny part about it is we couldn't get them out of the pool. Good morning, welcome to Bonaire.
Each year, after they do their pool and classroom training, several wounded warriors get the chance to travel to the island of Bonaire to complete their training in the open ocean.
Okay.
This year, 6 wounded warriors have come to Captain Don's habitat to learn to scuba dive. One by one, the warriors enter the water and I'm right behind them with my camera to document their adventure.
Let's go. Does anybody know where our divers went?
Down there, I think.
The warriors start with a basic reef dive to see some marine life. Next, they visit a shipwreck 80 feet below the surface. Divers of all ages and experience levels love to explore shipwrecks. In addition to being magnets for marine life, wrecks are just plain fun to swim through. Whether diving a shipwreck or a coral reef, these wounded warriors find some peace, relaxation, and a little adventure as they explore the beautiful, clear waters of Bonaire.
You just kind of forget everything, you know, forget your worries, just focus on what you're doing, and it's just, I mean, there's nothing like it. There's no gravity down there, just do what you want. It's beautiful.
You know, you can go up, down, left, right, any direction you want to go, and there's something cool there to look at.
Once I get in the water, I still do have pain, but it's not nearly what it is while I'm here on land and moving around and everything. I love it, and I plan on moving forward with the whole thing, too.
I think it gives them back self-confidence, self-worth. A lot of times I see them, they're a little hesitant to get in the water. Then they get in, and then it opens a whole new world. It's easier for some of them to move because they're missing legs and arms.
When you're under the water, you're not thinking about your injury. You're thinking about what's going on in that moment. The experience just takes your mind off of everything else.
I'm looking into going further in the whole realm of scuba diving, mainly because I live with pain on a constant basis. It's always there, and scuba diving is the one thing that makes it not hurt as much as it always does here on land.
It absolutely helps with my recovery. You know, it gets me out doing things that I wouldn't normally do, and it's good physical therapy, and it helps me work on my coordination and helps control my breathing. And being under the water, you know, you use muscles you wouldn't normally use, and you know, you're carrying your equipment around, so you get stronger and faster and more coordinated, and you know, it's just been amazing so far.
I don't even feel like there's really a handicap there, if you will. It's real. I mean, like I said, it's non-stressful. I go out there, I just jump in with my water leg. There's really no difference.
The group I work with in New Jersey, myself, our masks are always filled up with water. It's not the pool water or the ocean water, it's tears. It's a real good feeling when you're able to help somebody like that to conquer something. Don't get me going, Bert.
Bonaire honors the wounded warriors with a motorcycle procession through Bonaire. Captain Don's habitat even loans me a Harley Davidson to join the procession. We also attend a reception at the home of Lieutenant Governor Glenn Thode. I used the opportunity for some shameless promotion, hopefully turning the governor and his wife into Blue World fans.
And so you meet a lot of creatures in the water.
I left that evening with a tremendous respect for these men and women who sacrifice so much for our country and never give up. And I gained a new respect for scuba diving, which is helping them heal and recover from their wounds. The opportunity to meet and dive with these amazing heroes will always make this trip to Bonaire very special.
Don't go away. Jonathan is about to learn how to take notes underwater and count fish.
You ever wonder how many fish are in the sea? Well, biologists have, and today I'm in Rockport, Massachusetts for a special event to answer that very question. And that event is the Great Annual Fish Count, coordinated by the Reef Environmental Education Foundation. The fish count takes place worldwide, and I'll be diving along with many other divers in Massachusetts to identify and count fish. Why count fish? So biologists can learn about trends in fish populations to better understand and protect those populations. For my part of this project, I'm diving on Cape Ann in Massachusetts. Other divers are spread out all over the USA and the world. But before my day of fish counting, I stop in at Bob Michelson's fish identification course. Bob is the regional director of the Great Annual Fish Count.
So we're going to start with our top 20 species, the most cited frequency of each fish. First one on the list is the cunner.
Now you would think that since I've been diving in New England for over 20 years, I would know all the names of the fish. But it turns out a refresher is never a bad idea.
You'll see over 100 of these fish on a given survey while you're diving.
The morning of the big day, each diver checks in with a reef volunteer and gets a sheet to fill out with the day's finds. And it's always a good idea to listen to the dive briefing, especially when you're diving a new site. Finally, it's time to go count some fish.
I got a slate and a pencil. Aha! So I can write down what I see.
My slate works underwater, so I can make notes as I go. I'm heading into the water with a bunch of other divers. We'll spread out to cover a large area. Hopefully we don't all count the same fish. As I head out to deeper water, first I cross a vast expanse of sandy seafloor. There isn't much here, just a bunch of drifting seaweed and a few rocks. Finally, I get to the bigger boulders out a little further. There's kelp and plenty of good places for fish to hide. This should be a good place to find some fish. I'm not taking any chances. Maybe I'll sneak up on the fish. At last, a fish! I found a cunner. I'm not that proud of myself, though. The cunner is probably the most common fish in Massachusetts. So I keep swimming with my eyes peeled, and then, aha! Finally some luck, a sea robin. This curious little fish walks along the bottom on finger-like pectoral fin spines, and it's not very common on Cape Ann. My dive buddy Mia makes a note. That's a great find. Heading out a little deeper, Mia and I finally hit pay dirt, a huge school of pollock. Now all we have to do is count them. 1, 2, 3. Hey, stop moving, you guys. Oh well, I'll have to just guess and write down, I don't know, 100. That sounds good. Heading back towards shore through the kelp-covered rocks, we eventually return to the sandy shallows and decide to take a look around. I find a strange pair of eyes in the sand. It's a flounder, perfectly evolved for this habitat. A little coaxing reveals the whole fish. Nearby, another creature of the sand, a skate. This relative of the stingray has no stinger for defense. It swims along the bottom by pushing off with its pelvic fins and then gliding a foot or so just an inch above the bottom. I'm finding some good stuff out here on the sand, but as I turn to head back to shore, I find something quite rare. It's an Atlantic torpedo ray. This ray has no stinging spine either, but it can defend itself by delivering an electric shock of up to 220 volts. I'm definitely writing this one down even if nobody believes me. I keep a safe distance as the ray decides to swim off into the depths. Any animal that catches its prey by electrocuting it deserves some respect. I head back to shore with a nice cross-section of fish sightings to show for the dive.
Well, that was great. We found a lot of fish, some cunner, a really big flounder, some skates, and a huge school pollock.
So now I need to get dried off and go report our dive results. We go to Stage Fort Park, also on Cape Ann, where the reef representatives have set up base camp. To make the counts scientifically valuable, I have to fill out a form listing everything I saw and how many. I can't wait to write down the part about the torpedo ray. Bob is looking pretty busy running the event, but I get a quick tour. Tell me what everybody's doing here.
This is citizen scientists at its best.
It's a great event. How many people we got?
Don't have the final totals yet. There's still people out counting fish and surveying, but I'm expecting to end up with 90 to 95 divers today. It'll be the 11th consecutive year we've held the largest fish counting event in the United States here in Gloucester.
So I finished my dives here in Rockport, counting fish, along with thousands of other divers all over the world that were counting fish today as well. And what's really cool is to think that all this data collected will be helping scientists decide which species of fish are in decline and need more help, and which species are doing just fine.
Meet Jonathan Bird, one of the world's top underwater nature cinematographers. Traveling the world on assignment for all the major networks, he is an Emmy Award-winning authority on the underwater world. In freshwater or salt, reefs, wrecks, or caves, Jonathan documents the world beneath the waves. Welcome to the Blue World.
In shallow tropical oceans, coral reefs provide habitat and protection for thousands of species of marine animals, especially fish. In places where the seafloor is too sandy to give coral a place to grab on and grow, there is very little fish life because there's very little protection from predators. For years, fishermen have known, however, that a shipwreck out in the middle of a flat, featureless seafloor becomes a magnet for marine life. Not only is it a place for fish to hide from predators, but it's also a place where coral can take hold and grow. For this reason, shipwrecks are often called artificial reefs. Most shipwrecks are the result of accidents or warfare. They've become popular not just with fish, but with divers who want to see the fish or explore the wrecks. Sometimes these shipwrecks are not in the most convenient place for divers, however, far from shore, sometimes in deep water. So why not intentionally sink a ship in a convenient spot? That's exactly what people are doing all around the world, sinking old ships as a way to create an artificial reef in a particular spot. Sometimes to help out the fishermen, sometimes to give divers a place to go, and sometimes to help out the local marine life. Yes, it's hard to believe, but sinking a big piece of junk on the bottom of the ocean can be a huge help to local marine life.
My question is, how long does it take for a shipwreck to turn into an artificial reef?
To answer this question, I'm off to beautiful Key West, Florida, where a relatively new shipwreck awaits. In 2009, a 522-foot-long decommissioned missile-tracking warship called the Vandenberg was sunk off Key West. Before the sinking, it underwent an extensive cleanup at a shipyard in Virginia to remove anything that might be harmful to the marine environment and to make it safer for divers. Then it was towed all the way to Key West. Carefully placed explosive charges flooded the ship and sent her to the bottom in under 2 minutes. Immediately after the sinking, the ship looked like something from outer space. A completely white, brand new looking ship on the bottom of the ocean. One of the antennae looked ready to be used. Now, 4 years later, the Blue World dive team is heading back down to Key West to visit the Vandenberg and find out what 4 years on the seafloor have done to the ship. We head over to South Point Divers in Key West, where we load the boat and join a regularly scheduled dive to the Vandenberg. Since this wreck is the second largest artificial reef in the world, it's pretty popular with divers who come from all over the world to see it. It's only a few miles offshore to reach the site. Captain Mike drives our dive boat in Key West style. Soon it's time to suit up. Mike gives the dive briefing, and then it's time to go.
Well, it's been 4 years since the last time I was here when they sank the Vandenberg. I wonder what 4 years under the ocean has done to this ship. Let's go find out.
It's a windy day and the visibility is not as good as I had hoped, but soon the ship comes into view. No longer is she ghostly white. The Vandenberg is now covered in a thin layer of marine growth. Encrusting sponges, hydroids, tunicates, as well as small patches of coral festoon her hull. Schools of small fish have discovered the ship as well, keeping their distance from me as I move through the passageways. I love to swim up the stairs of a shipwreck. It gives me the feeling of zero gravity to be hovering above such an iconic symbol of our daily human struggle against the forces of gravity on land. Making my way towards one of the masts, I observe a lot of encrusting marine growth. One of the antennae is covered in the same growth. While the reef is growing well, it still looks like a ship. Four years underwater has allowed the ocean to partially reclaim the ship. There's a thin layer of marine growth, and the fish are starting to call the ship home. Soon it's time to head up to the top of the mast where the mooring line is tied. Fighting the current, I make my way to the line that will lead me safely back to the boat. The next day, we head north up the Keys to Key Largo. Key Largo has some world-famous wrecks. We stop in at Horizon Divers, Key Largo wreck diving experts. Tim and I load our gear onto the boat. Soon we're on our way, navigating through the canals to the open ocean on a beautiful Keys day. We arrive at the wreck of the Spiegel Grove. A slightly older wreck, the Spiegel Grove was sunk in 2002. As the crew ties the boat up to one of the mooring lines, I'm getting suited up for my dive.
So this is the wreck of the Spiegel Grove. It's 11 years old, a little bit older than the Vandenberg. Let's go see what it looks like.
As I follow the mooring line down through the blue water, the first thing I see is the top of a mast. Looking closer, I can see quite a bit of sponge and coral growth here, as well as fish. Deeper on the wreck, a school of jacks regard me with indifference as I make my way towards the main deck. This 11-year-old wreck definitely shows much more marine growth than the 4-year-old Vandenberg. And there seem to be more fish. The presence of smaller fish has attracted predators like barracuda. Some sections of the wreck are so overgrown with sponges and coral that they're completely unidentifiable. And while I definitely know I'm diving a shipwreck, it's undeniable that nature is taking this man-made object back. There's also no denying that exploring a shipwreck is fun. Since the Spiegel Grove was prepared in advance for divers, just like the Vandenberg, it's safe for exploration. Inside a hole in the deck, I find, wait for it, a bathroom. Of course, I explore another set of stairs. I'm rising up to the top of the wreck on my way back to the surface. These ships are so big that they have to be sunk in fairly deep water so they don't stick up and pose a threat to boats on the surface. As a result, the dives tend to be around 100 feet deep, which limits bottom time. I spend a few minutes doing a safety decompression stop on the mooring line just under the surface while I contemplate the wreck.
You know, for being only 11 years old, that wreck has a lot of marine growth. It's really pretty, but not a lot of schools of fish.
This, of course, makes me wonder, what would an even older wreck look like? Our captain drives us a few miles to another even older wreck, the Duane.
120 feet beneath this boat is the wreck of the Duane, which is 25 years old. I'm really curious to see what a 25-year-old shipwreck looks like.
Down on the wreck, I make a beeline for the bridge, known to be one of the most beautiful parts of the Duane. Inside, I discover a refuge for fish completely decorated with sponges and coral. The walls look nothing like the plain metal of 25 years ago. Now they're splashed in yellow, red, orange, and pink pastels. Leaving the bridge, I investigate yet another staircase, still recognizable as such, but so overgrown with sponges and coral that now it looks more like an abstract sculpture. Everywhere I look, the wreck has grown thick colonies of cup corals. And under every overhang, a school of fish hiding from predators. The fish don't know this was once a warship. For them, it's just a great place to live like any other reef. It seems that 25 years old is a good vintage for an artificial reef. All too soon, the dive must come to an end, and I head back towards the mooring line to the boat. My adventures on shipwrecks have been illuminating. What I've learned is that the Vandenberg has a bright future as an artificial reef as the years go by. I'll be checking in now and then to see how she does as she progresses from a ship to a mature artificial reef.
Don't go away. Jonathan is about to learn to hold his breath for 3 minutes and dive without a scuba tank.
Divers love warm, clear water, and one of the most well-known locations for relaxed tropical scuba diving is the island of Bonaire. Bonaire is located in the southern Caribbean, not far from the coast of Venezuela. It's a beautiful sunny island which enjoys sea breezes powerful enough to generate electricity and has a long history of making salt from the ocean. The last time I visited Bonaire, I was on a mission to film spawning coral. But this time, I'll be doing some diving without a scuba tank.
Diving without scuba gear is called free diving, and frankly, I'm not that good at it.
I've been invited to a free diving class at Buddy Dive Resort. It's being taught by Carol Meyer, a world champion free diver from Brazil. She can hold her breath for over 18 minutes. I head down to the pool where Carol is practicing static apnea, which means holding your breath while you lie very still. We can start the class as soon as she comes up from this breath. Wow, that took a lot longer than I was expecting. Now we can head on over to the classroom. Carol discusses techniques for breathing, rescue techniques, and of course, safety.
If you feel comfortable, if you equalize, if you breathe through the belly, you send more oxygen fast to the body. You close here, you put pressure, the air goes through.
Next, Carol gives me some tips on breathing with my belly in order to get more air into my lungs. All my life I've been breathing, and I thought I was doing it pretty well. But it turns out I'm doing it all wrong for freediving.
It's not easy to do it outside water.
Since freedivers have been known to black out if they try to hold their breath a little too long, the class practices rescue techniques, how to hold someone with their head above the water and open the airway to make sure they breathe. First, Carol demonstrates. Then the students try.
Oh, you're definitely gonna drown, I'm sorry.
After a few attempts, I get the hang of it.
Yes!
Mostly. I'm kind of hoping I don't have to rescue anyone.
I'm back.
All right.
Finally, we practice static apnea. We relax, take big breaths, and float quietly face down in the pool. Nobody in our group is going to set a record, but we're trying to see how long we can comfortably hold our breaths. I'm not wearing a mask because water on the face triggers what's called the mammalian diving response, a lowering of heart rate and conservation of oxygen.
Yes, okay.
The water on my face literally helps me hold my breath longer. After a few attempts, I managed to go just shy of 3 full minutes without a breath. I've never held my breath that long. That's all fine and good, but static apnea is a lot different from swimming in the ocean. Carol takes the class out onto the reef to practice freediving. We gather around a float with a line going down into the blue. One at a time, Carol takes each of us down. We go only to a predetermined depth so nobody gets in trouble or has a problem getting back to the surface. Soon it's my turn. The line helps me swim straight down so I don't waste energy going diagonally. At 50 feet, we turn and come back up gently, conserving energy to make that one breath last. Less than 1 minute later, I'm back at the surface. There's no way I could hold my breath for 3 minutes while swimming.
What a day! Today I did some stuff I never thought I'd do. With Carol's instruction, I held my breath for almost 3 minutes. And I dove to 52 feet without a scuba tank!
The next day, I head on over to the dive shop again because Carol is taking the class out on the reef for a few hours of freediving practice. We will each partner up with a buddy and hone our skills. Carol is wearing a big monofin attached to both feet. It takes strong leg muscles to swim with this kind of fin, but it provides a lot of thrust. With it, she swims like a dolphin. And like a dolphin, Carol can go a long time without breathing down there. Now you might ask, why free dive if you can scuba dive? Why hold your breath if you can strap on a tank and breathe all you like? Well, it's peaceful, it's less intrusive in the marine environment, the fish seem much less bothered by free divers than scuba divers, and it's just a fun skill to develop. But it requires practice. Lots of practice. So my buddy and I are practicing and getting better all the time. The goal isn't to go deeper, but to stay longer on the reef, to have more time to look around. Carol shows me I have a long way to go, but as I get more and more comfortable, I'm able to spend more than a minute down on the reef, and my deeper dives are passing the 60-foot mark. This is with only a few days of training and practice. Later in the day, Carol and I spend an hour diving together. Well, sort of. To be honest, I can't really keep up. Carol has set over a dozen world records, not just for static apnea. She's been down to depths over 500 feet on just one lungful of air. Today, swimming around a reef with her class is just goofing around. Easy stuff for Carol. So, at the end of my week of training, Carol certifies that I'm a real freediver, and I have the pin to prove it.
Ooh!
Congratulations.
So I'm an actual...
To achieve the real spirit of apnea.
And now it's up to me to keep practicing, to become one with the sea. Maybe someday I won't need a scuba tank anymore and I'll become part dolphin like Carol. But somehow, I doubt it.